Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Looking at the KenPom win probability graph from last night's Penn State-Nebraska Big Ten battle. It always starts off at about 50% for both teams, and it kind of just stays there for a little while, depending on what happens. Well, it didn't stay there for long for Nebraska. Penn State hit that 12-0 run within the first 5 minutes of the game, at which point it dipped down underneath 30% for Nebraska, and then just kept steadily declining throughout the remainder of the game.
It's a very short clip. I can't pause it.
Getting down, to... Penn State was at 96% win probability at halftime. And then Nebraska hit like a little run, and they got it down to 16 or something like that within the first 5 minutes of the second half. And then it just flatlined down to 0%, basically from the 12-minute mark left in the second half until the rest of the game. Nothing. Yeah. 99.9. That's about as low as it goes. In fact, Penn State achieved, let's see what the first time in the game where Penn State achieved 100% win probability was. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 minutes left, somewhere around there. Well, there's a 100% probability that you're going to lose 5 minutes with 5 minutes left in the game. Well, the graphic doesn't lie. It's you get no chance. I know we have questions. I know we have questions. And Andrew Morgan gets 2 quick fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game. And so you're like, uh-oh. Nebraska's already shorthanded. There's no Bear K. And you're not defending anything, or you didn't anyway last night. So for the sake of roller coaster riding, this is kind of right on par. Right? We just talked about it. We've talked about it plenty over the last couple of days. The roller coaster. What's interesting about the roller coaster? You don't know what's going to come next. But here's the thing. I do not understand how you could possibly let that happen coming off of what just happened on Sunday in Chicago. It is baffling to me. It defies logic.
How are you not dialed in?
Right. They just did the Jason Sudeikis, Will Ferrell scared straight segment on SNL 50 this past weekend. You'd figure the coach with a heart problem punching a hole in a whiteboard and getting you to wake up for the second half against a game that you should have won against Northwestern, and you actually do so, would have provided the scared straight necessary to be able to not play like that again. It's not just in the results of how they play. It is the actual, the effort, the intensity, the edge, the teeth, as I always talk about. It makes no sense. That part of it makes no sense. Now, to zoom out a little bit, what does the loss mean in the grand scheme of things? Not much.
Not much, yeah.
Their ceiling is still their ceiling, and apparently the circumstances have to be exactly right for them to achieve it, but every single game is a giant roll of the dice. Every single game is a giant roll of the dice at this point. I go back to, when I just said the circumstances have to be exactly right. Doesn't it seem more and more like that every game? We had this discussion a lot during the 6-game losing streak. Kind of seems like a front runner group a little bit. It just feels like the circumstances have to be exactly perfect. And Fred Hoiberg, the coach, with a hole in his hand, echoed those thoughts after the game. Quote, "When things don't go our way, right now, the unfortunate thing is we just lose our principles. When things don't go our way, we just lose our principles." It's not a good look. So what does it mean in the grand scheme of things? It's just a loss. It's just a road loss. It's on the teetering on the edge of quad 1, quad 2, whatever. Nebraska is still in okay shape to go to the NCAA tournament. So it's not like the world is ending here. And it's not like you're And I saw the conversation about Fred and all that, firing him or whatever popped up yesterday. Like, come on, it's February 20th and Nebraska's in shape to make the NCAA tournament. Like, that's not what we're doing. But we can try and figure out this team and what's wrong with this team. It's just not a good look to play to the environment or whatever it is they were doing last night. Robin said on the show yesterday, like playing to the environment. It might be that. I would say it's playing to the circumstances of what happens to you in a game. And it makes it even more frustrating knowing what it can be and not achieving it consistently or at all in some games. Fred Hoiberg said it last night. We went on the road and played two important games for us to try and, lock up a spot in the NCAA tournament or improve seeding or whatever it might be. They played 15 good minutes of basketball out of 80.
Against the two worst teams in the conference.
Again, no, it was just against one team. It was just against Northwestern, and they got a win out of it.
Sure.
They didn't play. They played 0 good minutes of basketball last night.
Yes.
Yeah, the grand total was 0 last night. And it just doesn't. Now, once again, I just tried to explain it. It's not that it doesn't make sense because I think we kind of got to the bottom of it, right? It's a group that for whatever reason, when things don't go right for them, they don't respond well. Their principles, as Fred Hoiberg says, go away.
They're David Spade in that John Mulaney skit from Sunday night.
I
got a feel for it. I sat down.
Yeah. They're like me playing a video game. It's like, oh, I threw a pick 6 in the first play. Reset. You can't reset. You just have to eat it, and you have to grind your way back into basketball games. That means doing things possession by possession, and it takes a focused team to do that. It takes a team with chemistry to be able to do that. It takes a team with talent. Obviously, I mean, I think Nebraska has some talent, but I don't necessarily see the focus, the chemistry, them liking each other that much. And like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like they all really want to go to war with each other. And that's when you have to, Nebraska's going to be in a lot of situations where the game is not going well and you can't just fold up. And they folded up last night. And that's why this one is bothering people. Once again, it's more frustrating knowing what it can be because we've seen what it can be. We've seen them play connected and we've seen them play hard and we've seen them play focused. I mean, I know, classic Connor going back to the Creighton game, but like I think about that game and it took 40 minutes of consistent focus. Effort, yes, but focus, right? We have to be us and have our game plan every possession with every pass by the other team, every shot, it's easier said than done. It's not easy. And there are going to be, of course, some lapses throughout the course of a very long season. But once again, you just experienced something traumatizing or almost traumatizing on Sunday. And so to come out like that last night is infuriating and deflating, for Nebraska basketball. And of course, Nebraska basketball fans. And that's when the conversations like what are happening right now start. I can't believe it, Josh, but at the same time, I can. So I cannot believe it. Bad deal.
Horrible. And they're probably going to have 19 at the end of the regular season and go, man, I wish we could have a couple back. Do we want that Iowa game back? Do we want that Penn State game back? And that's the interesting thing about sports. You can't go get them back.
They
every game is its own little test.
But you could dive into the numbers and see exactly kind of what happened. I mean, I think at the end of the first half, Penn State was 10 out of 12 on layups and 2 out of 2 on dunks. And it was just like they were getting whatever they wanted with ease. Mm-hmm. Nebraska, I know that they're limited in terms of what they have, and there's no Berke and Morgan's in foul trouble, but like affecting shots and closeouts and whatever, like, yeah, the other team makes shots sometimes, but that's about what you bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And They didn't have that last night. And so it's one game, but in a lot of ways, it's a microcosm of kind of what the season has been.
You're the defensive intensity team, and
you have to be that.
Like, I could understand, like, oh, they out schemed us in our defensive strategy. Like the lackadaisical effort on a lot of these plays. It's just like, well, that's what you are. You're the defense team.
Jeff writes in on the Equitable Bank inbox.
Hi, Jeff.
You said it all when you said Nebraska went on a little run and got it down to 16. Geez, what a bleep show. I didn't really put much into the thought that they'd struggle without Burke, other than they'd probably get hammered on the boards. Picture this team without Bryce. Yeah. Well, like, Bryce does a lot for you in the basketball sense, right? Like he does a lot for you in the scoring category. So if you take that piece away, yeah, I don't know. But luckily they're not playing that game right now. Amazing Daniel writes in on YouTube.
Hello, Amazing Daniel.
On paper, they're in shape to make it, yes. But if you actually watch them, do you feel like they're poised to end on a high note? I don't know what they're poised for. That was the whole this is the whole conversation. We have no idea what to expect or what even a baseline is of what to expect on a game-by-game basis with this group. Their ceiling and their floor are in different universes, different planets and different solar systems. When they're connected and they're focused and the effort's there, it could beat a lot of teams and a lot of NCAA tournament teams, and has done so a couple times this year. Several times, I guess, this year. But when they're not, that's got to be a non-negotiable. And that's Fred, and that is, ultimately it comes back to him, but it's the leadership too. I just don't know how, you could, after what happened Sunday, you could come out, get buried like that right away, and then not respond, right? And just fold it up. Because you just saw what happens. Okay, we started poorly, but we know it's within our grasp.
We got the switch. We can do the switch
Yeah,
thing.
they just didn't bother to switch it last night. At a certain point, you get down too much, and I don't know, you just folded it up. So to answer the question, Daniel, like I don't know what's going to happen in these last 4 games of the regular season. Would I be surprised if they beat Michigan on Monday? God, no. I would not. I just wouldn't. I'm sorry. I know they have 2 big dudes and they're really good, and they're at the top of the table right now in the Big Ten. I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska won.
Vibes are bad though.
Vibes are horrible, but once again, yes, it's a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. It's up and it's down, and you don't know when those bumps are coming. Oh God, my seatbelt came unbuckled. I'm going to fly out of this thing. You don't know when it's going to happen.
If the season ended today in the Big Ten tournament.
Don't cry, Josh.
I know, it's just breaking me up how bad this team is. They would play Iowa in the second game, the 10-15 matchup.
The 10-15
of
matchup.
The Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. Pedro says, hi, guys.
Hi, Pedro.
Maybe they should rename Pinnacle Bank Arena to CHI Health Center. Maybe then they would focus and they would play better. Yeah, I don't think it's like all the environment that they play in, but I think there's some of that where if they don't feel like it's a big,
nobody in attendance.
If they don't feel like it's a big game, like, I don't know.
It's a bring your own energy game, and we brought none.
we have no energy. We have no energy. So yeah, that stuff's got to be non-negotiable, and it was, I guess, negotiable last night, as decided by the leaders of this team.
Now, why did Fred Hoiberg choose to not sacrifice a second whiteboard?
You can only play that card so many times, Josh. 2 games in a row. It's like, really, is this guy just going to start plunging whiteboards every game now? Well, you can't do it. Doesn't hit the same.
No.
All right, so we'll have more on them as we go on throughout the show today. But yes, vibes are indeed bad. We'll be back with Jacob Padilla, talk about Creighton basketball. Luckily for them this week, the vibes have been sitting in recovery chambers.
Ooh.
Just, please fix my body.
Fix me.
I'm 30 years old. Fix my body. We'll check in with Jacob next on 1620 The Zone.
GOOO!